This week on the Hollywood and Toto podcast, have you joined Bluesky yet? It's where all the cool kids are hanging out, including some of Hollywood's biggest stars. We're going to explain why that's, well, just a little bit cowardly. And we interview Tim Young. He's a comedian, he's a consultant, he's a Twitter personality. He's an influencer, I guess you could say, but sort of the best kind because he does have something to say. And boy, he doesn't have a filter, and that helps to make a great conversation. I think you'll agree.
Welcome to the Hollywood and Toto podcast. Entertainment news and reviews without the woke Hollywood narrative. Free speech, free expression. Now that's entertainment. And here's your host, award-winning film critic, Christian Toto.
Well, before we kick things off, I hope you'll like, subscribe, share the latest episodes of the Hollywood and Toto podcast. Every little bit helps. It definitely pushes this show forward. We are growing. It's nice to see. And I can't thank you all enough for listening, for sharing, for doing those little steps that make a show break through those algorithms, because that is what matters these days. No one controls the algorithms. They're the almighty Google gods. Of course, Google owns YouTube, but I appreciate your help. And now on with the show. Well, Sean Penn did it. Somebody had to do it. Somebody in Hollywood had to stand up for free speech at long last. And I don't want to get a word wrong. I'm going to read you the key paragraph from a recent Sean Penn speech. I think it matters. And well, before Kamala Harris came along, I think he was the king of the word salad speeches. He would really just waxes less than poetically, but I think he cuts to the chase here. Check this out. Around the world, there is this demand for diversity, but not diversity of behavior and not diversity of opinion or language. I would just encourage everybody to be as politically incorrect as their heart desires and to engage diversity and to keep telling those stories. Wow, Sean, thanks for plugging my book, Virtue Bombs, How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul. Now, he didn't directly plug it. Heck, he didn't even mention it. But you know what? That's exactly what the heart of my book is all about Hollywood losing itself, losing its creative edge, losing the ability to tell their stories their way, being confined by certain parameters. You know what they are. Well, that's maybe starting to fade, and God bless that for happening. And also, God bless Sean Penn for doing what he just did. But I'm still frustrated. I'm a conservative film critic, I'm a journalist, and I've always had a bee in my bonnet about Hollywood. Hey, guys and gals, can you stand up for free speech? It's going away. It's under attack. Sensitivity readers, trigger warnings, you name it, it's out there. Can you imagine turning on Goodfellas, the great Martin Scorsese film, and seeing a trigger warning saying you might be offended by something in the film? Well, hell yeah, of course it is. It's a mob movie. It's meant to be offensive. It's a story. It's a warning. That's what it's all about. I mean, really, when you think about it, any effective piece of art could have any kind of trigger warning. Caution, you may feel something. Buckle in. It's going to be crazy.
Do you have any idea how offensive that is?
Well, that's what we've been up against for so long. And suddenly, just days after Trump's election victory, people are starting to speak out. We've covered things like Justine Bateman doing just that, saying that she can breathe again after the election. She's no Trump fan. She doesn't have a red hat on her head. And now Sean Penn is saying what he's saying. You think it's an accident? I don't. But that brings to mind another Hollywood story, and I teased it in the opening. A lot of Hollywood stars are going to Bluesky. It's the new platform where all the cool liberal people are hanging out. And I guess a few weeks ago it was Mastodon. I don't even know what that is. And before that it was Threads, which is obviously not taken the world by storm. But they're on Bluesky, and we're talking people like Rob Reiner and Mark Hamill, Alyssa Milano, Guillermo del Toro, many others. Jamie Lee Curtis comes to mind. They've either left Twitter completely or they've basically shut that whole part of their lives down, their social media lives, and gone to Bluesky. So why? It's a very good question, isn't it? It's obviously based in part on the election results. They're not happy about it. Plenty of people aren't really happy about it. I get that. But why would you leave Twitter? And, for a lot of these celebrities, it could be their platform, just a way to kind of let their gripes out in the public, but also it's a pretty good marketing tool. And a lot of these celebrities, they've got huge followings. And to just give that up is not wise, at least from a marketing point of view. But I think there's a few theories as to why. In recent months, Elon Musk has grown closer to President-elect Trump. So I think that bothers them quite a bit. Some of them just don't like the hassle of getting comments thrown their way on social media, at least on Twitter. They don't want to face the brickbats. They don't want to face the insults. But that's their prerogative. I don't face a lot of insults on Twitter. I block people, I mute people. But generally speaking, I just enjoy the conversation. There are ways to change the experience and to protect yourself and to avoid some, if not all, of the uglier side of social media. I don't know why they just didn't do that, but they didn't. And this brings to mind something else that does matter. You know, the modern conservative has to defend his or her positions almost all the time. Think about pop culture, think about Hollywood, think about academia, and of course, the corrupt media. They're all saying, you're wrong, we're right. And you know, you could drown that out as well, or you can say, hey, maybe they have a point, or maybe I should listen to what they have to say, or maybe I should reevaluate my opinions on certain things. And that whole process, I think, is healthy. I think it's good for the person and the country, but also it makes you a stronger debater. It makes you more firm in your beliefs. If you're constantly questioned, you say, hey, wait a minute, let me double check why I believe what I believe. And maybe I could fine tune it a bit. Maybe I could even change my mind. That's good and healthy. And I think a lot of people on the left just don't have that. And I think that these celebrities leaving Twitter for Bluesky is really indicative of that. It's a problem. Someone like Stephen King, who's a wordsmith among our very best, you think he should be able to accept criticisms or maybe even fire back why he believes what he believes? That would be helpful, I would think. But he's one of the many who left Twitter or X. I use them interchangeably. I just can't really make a choice, and I can't leave Twitter behind. And I still have a nagging suspicion that one day Elon Musk, who can be very unpredictable, was going to say, yeah, I was just kidding about X. Let's just call it Twitter. We'll wait and see. But it's reason why these people are leaving social media to go to a new frontier. Now, I'm also a little upset with them that they're doing that because it almost seems cowardly in a way. You can't handle the comments. I mean, you're a superstar. You've got oodles of money. You've got lots of people who adore you no matter what you say. And yeah, there are some who have an issue with what you've said, what you've done, the positions you hold. You can't handle that. Your skin isn't thick enough to be able to survive those kind of comments. And also, you know, another recent survey said that the political divide on X is pretty split down the middle, around 47-48% conservative, around the same for liberals. That's perfect. I mean, that's like what you want. That's like you couldn't sketch it any better. You want to have a fair debate. You want to have a healthy divide. You want to have equal amounts on both sides because that just brings the conversation to a fresh way. I mean, if it was 90% conservative and 10% liberal or vice versa, I think that would be, I don't know, I won't say ugly, but it certainly wouldn't help the conversation as it moves along. It'd be wildly one-sided. But that's not enough. And I imagine the ideological split on Bluesky is probably that 90% liberal, 10% conservative. If that, it might even be more lopsided. I don't think that's good or healthy or strong. I don't want to be protected from views I don't like. I don't want to be, cushioned or walled off from people who don't see eye to eye with me. Listen, there are many people on the right I don't see eye to eye with. I disagree with some things on the right. I'll disagree with some elements of the Trump administration, guaranteed. Some of the cabinet picks, I'm already like, that wouldn't be my first, second, or eighth choice, but that's just the process. That's just America. So fleeing Twitter to me just feels weak. And it's going to be even weaker when they come crawling back to Twitter or X, when Bluesky fails or when it just doesn't have the power, the magnitude, the drawing power of existing platforms like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. It seems inevitable. And when they do, they'll get even more mockery. And maybe at that point, they'll learn how to process some of the negative comments, and maybe they'll have learned a lesson or two. We'll have to wait and see. I don't mind that Mark Hamill disagrees with my worldview. I don't mind that he's fled Twitter for Bluesky, but I do mind that he and many others didn't stand up for free speech, especially in the wake of the Twitter file revelations. Luke Skywalker, you let us all down. Not the ending I wanted to see. Tim Young can be hard to describe. He's a comedian, a stand-up comic, and he doesn't really hit the road that much by his own definition. He's a political consultant, but not the typical one you expect to see or hear on social media. He will poke fun at his own side early and often, but he's mostly a rock-ribbed conservative. And of course, he doesn't have a traditional platform. He uses X, aka Twitter. His handle is @TimRunsHisMouth, which is funny and just so Tim Young. And that's where you can find him pretty much around the clock, weighing in on controversial issues, sharing his views, interviewing people who have something important or noteworthy to say. He does it all on X, and he's got a huge following as a result, which is why I wanted to have him on. But what I didn't realize or I forgot is that Tim just doesn't hold back. He just says what he thinks. He understands he's going to rub some people the wrong way. And I think you're going to hear a lot of that in this interview, though I think in the best of ways, because he's smart, because he's thoughtful, because he cares about being honest. And he's not a grifter. He's something else. He's a unique voice in the Twitter space, and happy to have him on the show. So check out this new Hitcast conversation with Tim Young. I think you'll agree. If you haven't followed him already, you'll probably do so in short order. Well, Tim, thanks for joining the show. It's been about 3 or so weeks since the election. There's been a lot of fallout, the good, the bad, and the comical. What's been your main impression of what we've seen in the last 3 weeks? And you could pick the media, the Democrats, Republicans, Trump. I mean, have at it. What's really jumped out at you about this process? Because it's been entertaining at the very least.
Well, I mean, we have the obvious. Democrats are still in denial about a lot of stuff, but the media landscape has shifted kind of at the pace that I thought it was going to shift right after the election, because I think there's going to be a restructuring of a lot of the media. A couple of my big kind of former executive friends in media kept telling me that by 2025, it's going to be nearly unrecognizable to what it is now.
Wow.
And I really think you're seeing these networks consider, well, they're all downsizing. My brain works sometimes. They're all kind of like selling off things. They're getting people to cut their salaries. We may see MSNBC get sold here, maybe to Elon Musk, which might be really fun. But, the numbers have been down over the past 4 years, and it's not just liberal media. It's conservative media, too. I mean, most conservative media, other than Newsmax, is down about 80% and has been down. Now, there might be a little slight uptick because it was fun to watch Trump near the end there. But for the most part, everything is down across the board. And all of these places are going to start flailing, if they aren't flailing already, to try to find a way to recover those ratings and get those eyes back on their product, or they're going to sell.
Yeah. When you think about where people are going, I guess the obvious answer is new media. It could be Joe Rogan. It could be Megyn Kelly. It could be people like you follow what you share on social media. Yeah. I mean, it's an opportunity for sure, but it's also a chance to make mistakes and to maybe make some of the same mistakes that the media have been making in recent years. What are your thoughts about sort of new media right now? It just seems like a wonderful opportunity, but it's also risky at the same time.
And there are really smart people who've cashed in on it. Like, I didn't re-sign with SiriusXM recently, and I watched them make bad move after bad move, which is incredible, the things that they've been doing. So, they signed Megyn Kelly. Look, I like Megyn Kelly, and God bless her for all the money she's making. Mm-hmm. But why a company would sign someone like Megyn Kelly for millions of dollars when she gives away everything for free on YouTube? Or the Call Her Daddy podcast they just signed for $125 million or whatever it is, and they give it away free. Yeah. What's the point if it's a free podcast? But look, I can't fault the creators. I can't fault Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly's smart. Mm-hmm. I mean, hell, like even in her exit from NBC, which I thought was uncalled for and just ridiculous when her show, that was NBC, right?
It was absurd.
I think she cashed $60 million going out of there, man. I would have said, it was okay to do blackface as a kid too, if it would have paid me $60 million. Did not work for years. Like, I can't fault her. She's smart. Uh-huh. But you have SiriusXM in particular, like they see somebody who's popular on the internet and somehow they work it out that they pay them, $100 million or a very high amount of money. And the product is still free on the internet. You don't have to be on SiriusXM. It's not behind a paywall. It might be a little bit of a delay, but people can wait, a day or so if there's that little bit of a delay. I think the world is a wide open place for creators now. Like, I mean, I've always focused on Twitter, now X, and it's done very well for me, and it will continue to do very well in the future. But as long as I don't piss off Elon. And but I look at these other people and I'm thinking, man, I should have done this podcast, this video podcast, a lot sooner than when I started doing it, because man, serious signing characters, I just can't get over it. Like, you've been in entertainment for a while. I think any executive who watches this, anybody who has half a brain, watches the decisions that they're making over there, and they're like, what? Like, so they're just basically just handing a person free money to continue doing what they do, and like a lot of it. And apparently that office, I mean, they always scale back over at SiriusXM. They have some great buildings, great staff, and everything like that. But like, I believe that they have layoffs coming because of their deficit. Like, hey, maybe watch the business model on this one.
It's a great point. I think one of the things that you do, that I do, that some of the newer figures are attempting, is to be lean and mean. My friend John Nolte at Breitbart News just talked about the movie Expendables 4, and he said, dear God, how did that cost $100 million? There's some sort of grift going on here. I think that's part of it. I didn't realize it, but I was watching an interview with you recently. You grew up in a poor neighborhood in Baltimore. You're scrappy and you're smart, but what do you think led to your ability to kind of work in this space and be successful? Because it's not easy. For every person who wants to be an influencer, I'm sure there are dozens and dozens who fail miserably, and you're the opposite. What's been your secret sauce?
I don't know. I don't know, man. It just like, I think it's because I'm also a comedian, and so I don't perform as much as I should, but also like, I don't need to. That's kind of like the thing, the juice isn't worth the squeeze sometimes with stand up. Do I want to go on the road? Which I do. I love performing for audiences, but like, I don't need to. I mean, it just like the other stuff comes through, but no, it's just, I'm a nerd, and I don't really hide it, but like, I'm a real nerd when it comes to like policy stuff, when it comes to like Congress and legislation, and I've been used as an advisor and a consultant many times for members of Congress and even like executive departments and stuff for years. And so my secret sauce really is that I'm not just a dick that talks on the internet. I actually know what I'm talking about, and I actually get phone calls from people when things move, and so that's why, like, a majority of Congress follows me, or the Democrats, they watch it. I'm on their little notification list. And a lot of Trump's cabinet appointees I've developed relationships with because I have interviewed them in the past, and like I'm the nerd that they know is not going to turn on them at any point, because I'm all for making America conservative and making it great again. But I will criticize them when things are bad. But I just kind of I've inserted myself into the policy conversation and been more elevated on that level, and media conversation. I was a young member chair of the National Press Club a decade ago or so. For 2 years. So like, I've kind of just been, I was an influencer before the term influencer was a thing. And before I was on the internet, I've been working and doing the legwork and being in with a lot of people and talking with a lot of people and interviewing a lot of people before I became a thing.
I want to talk about comedy and Trump because it's complicated. We've seen so many hacky jokes over the years. I mean, even during Bill Clinton's presidency, the jokes quickly became, he's got large appetites, he's sexually active, and it was sort of lather, rinse, repeat. It got really dull really quickly. It seems like we're there with Trump for sure. As a comedian, how do you approach Trump? Are there fresh angles? Do you see it in a different path? Do you just poke fun at his adversaries? What's your approach?
Yeah, you make fun of the people losing their minds around him, because the one thing, Trump makes fun of himself. So, and he's really cool about it. He himself is a comedian. He's got great comedic timing. I mean, before anything else, like, he's got great policy, but he's a comedian first, I think, before. And he's a businessman too. I mean, he's got a lot of things going for him, but he understands the media. He understands how humanizing it is to make fun of yourself too. I don't think he thinks about it at this point. It's just who he is. So he really is pretty impossible to make fun of at this point. I know that's weird to say as a comedian, but because he makes those jokes himself. And there are things that, if he does something specific or whatever, that you can make fun of. I saw a really, really funny joke. I think it was on Instagram. Somebody made a joke about when he was shot, and everyone forgets the very first thing he said was, "Give me my shoes." And like, because he was like in control the whole time, and the comedian made the joke something like, it was like, forget like an assassination attempt. He was acting like it was a one night stand. He was looking to get out of the place. Like, give me my shoes. I need to get out of here. And like, that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But like, other than like nuances like that, like, I mean, who gives a, I don't want to swear, who gives a crap about like hair? Like, the voice is always funny, but like, it's been done now for 10 years. Right.
Yeah,
so like those people who are good at it have established that they're good at it. The end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, SNL, if SNL would have been balanced and made fun of Biden as much as Trump until, they got the marching orders to get rid of Biden. So they started making fun of him finally when, they pushed him out.
Mm-hmm.
But they really were never funny with Trump. I would watch all of those sketches to see if something would come from it. Because a lot of times Fox News would interview me about those things. And like nothing. I don't believe I ever saw a funny thing that they did with Trump. And that's so weird because you should have something. At least early on, there should have been something. And they just never did it. And it was because it came from a place of anger, too. And they hate the guy. But really, like, Trump, everyone has lost their minds around him. Not Republican, but leftists. And those are the people you can mock and make fun of. Kamala was really easy to make fun of, too. And because she was new to the scene, too. And nobody really nobody knew what she did for 3.5 years or who she was for 3.5 years. So that was easy to do.
Well, she didn't either. So.
Yeah. But like Trump, he just, I hate to say that it's like impossible to make fun of him now, but we've kind of reached that point where it's like kind of hacky at this point if you're making fun of Trump.
Yeah, it really has to be something special. One of the people I enjoy, I've had him on the show, is Tyler Fisher. He really seems to he has an amazing impression, which sounds like, I mean, everyone does Trump except for me, but he gets to the heart of it. But he does find unique angles there and there, but he is the exception. What are your thoughts on political comedy in general? We all make fun of Kimmel for crying and Stephen Colbert for basically, reciting the notes given to him and not really being funny. But do you see pockets out there of really good satirical humor, left or right?
No. I grew up with Jon Stewart, and I actually really like him still, and I like his take on things still. I know I don't agree with him on his politics, but when I see what he does, and I don't understand how more people don't see what he does, which is like he's very clearly a Democrat, but on election night he poked fun of himself, he poked fun of the audience. He worked it appropriately because I think he's a genius. Yeah. But he, at the end of the day, still will read those talking points. But not as bad as a Colbert who came around afterwards. Not as bad as a Jimmy Kimmel who I never really viewed as a comedian. But Jon Stewart, I think, is still he's the one guy on the left I can pay attention to. Bill Maher's pretty good too, but Bill Maher's more of a lecturer. Like, he's funny, but he's like more of a lecturer. Those two guys come from the old school of Democrats and liberals. Like they are not lunatics. Obviously not Bill Maher. Bill Maher is still all about personal freedom, which I think a lot of us now can meet in the middle on, and medical freedom, all that kind of stuff. And he's warned his side about how they were losing. But really, not to be like, but those are the only two guys that I really see. And it's weird that they're lefties that I like, but really, like, our side just doesn't put up. I haven't seen a lot of Tyler stuff, so sorry if he's great. Awesome. But like, I don't see anything on our side. It's kind of disappointing. It makes me want to perform more, but at the same time, again, like, it's such a pain in the ass to perform.
Well, you kind of hinted this. You don't need to perform as much. You have 1 million followers on X. Talk about you're a creative soul. You mentioned you're a consultant at times. You do different things, but talk about how you flex this format, because obviously Elon Musk opened it up. Obviously there's less censorship now. That's great for you. It's great for everyone. But how do you view it? What do you think of different projects, kind of sharing your monologues? Talk about how you use this really incredible tool.
Yeah, I really like longer form interviews now, and I've been getting into that. That's what I really, really liked when I was at SiriusXM, was like sitting down, getting to talk to people for 20 minutes. And every time I talked to people, it was kind of like, man, I wish I had more time with that guy. And so my thing is just sitting down and having a normal human conversation with people now. And if it's funny, it's funny. If it's not, it's not. I like to find absurd clips. I follow Media Research Center. They don't pay me, so this is authentic. Media Research Center, Newsbusters, Nick Fondacaro. All these guys over there was Curtis Halk, all those guys that pull the clips of The View and all the lunatics on the left. I mean, they make my job real easy on X because they pull all the good stuff. And like, I brought Nick Fondacaro on the other night to talk for like 75 minutes. We had a long conversation about stuff. Because I'm like, yo, I gotta like honor you for like you watch this shit every day, and like I don't know what they get paid. It's not enough. But I mean, it's just kind of like showing the stuff that I think is absurd, making fun of it. It's very like it's kind of chill now. Like I obviously watch numbers and stuff to see how it's going, and it's bizarre at times where the numbers go up and down or whatever. But I don't. What can you do? But at this point, like I like doing more creative stuff. I'm talking with a couple of groups now about doing my more creative ideas that I had at one point here. Oh, you're the Hollywood and Toto. I can talk about this stuff. I was given a contract to be the late night host for Salem Media, and it was such bullshit. You can bleep that I would never work for them. And I said many choice words to the head of their TV network about how scammy their contract was. I was ready to go. 5 nights a week, I was going to be their late night host on their new channel that no one's watching. And the contract was so bad. And I want to warn, if anybody's watching this who's in entertainment or younger in particular, I don't need the money. But there was no money in the contract. And when I say no money, I'm not saying, oh, they were paying me badly. No, there was no money in a 5 night a week contract where then they said there was going to be a 50-50 rev share. So the deal was, I want to explain this to people, and I need to like go on. This is my big tour to like help out. Now that I realize I'm old now, because I want to tell young people, warn them of the dangers of these contracts. If you can get a Megyn Kelly contract where you're making gobs of millions of dollars and you still get to give away your thing for free on YouTube, God bless you. But like she is the exception, and nobody's going to get Call Me Daddy money, I think, ever again. I think that's going to be written down as one of the biggest mistakes they've ever made at a network. But Salem Media, who's been around for a while, and they've done great work in conservatism. Can't knock it. You know, the home of like Dennis Prager, God bless him, you know, all the stuff he's going through now. Praying for him, and you know, Gorka and all those guys are over there. But the contract they gave me was basically all the money. No producer, by the way, no producer, no editor, no writer. It was just going to be me producing a show every day, which I can do. I've done it for the Daily Caller. I did it for the Washington Examiner. I've done it before, and I've done very well with it. But the contract itself said that there were 4 advertisements in the hour a night, by the way, for 5 nights. So one man band, or I would hire my own people to do this for, you know, the contract was for 4 ads, 2 of which I could, you know, sell whatever 2 advertising spaces, but they had the right to shoot them down for any reason whatsoever. They also had the right to randomly cut the show at any point without me knowing, without any kind of notice. The other 2 were a 50-50 rev share where all of their expenses and costs came out of the 50-50 before we split it. So essentially, instead of 50-50, when you run the numbers, it would be like 90-10, maybe 95-10, you know, in their favor. So I would have gotten $0 from this whole thing. And then on top of that, at the very end of this contract, and again, not to get too deep into it, but it's such a scumbag contract that I can't not talk about it because you're the entertainment guy. The end of this contract had a indemnity clause in it. So it didn't matter what the contract said if I never got paid. And there was no pay schedule either when I would get paid by this contract with the $0 I was going to get. I had no cause of action in court, according to the very last section of it. Made no sense. Yeah, it was so in there. And I'm scared like that kids or somebody who is coming up, not even kids, like somebody maybe in our age range where like you're finally getting your break, just make sure you hire an attorney when you get these contracts, because that was such garbage. If I would have signed that, I would be locked down to nonsense and not get paid. Literally not. You know,
I think that's been happening over the decades. I mean, think about rock and roll music and all the horrible contracts. So I was offered a contract for a show one time, and it was cartoonishly awful. So I'm not too surprised by that. It is a shame. But you mentioned briefly The View. I've been obsessed with the show for a while. It was funny. I don't think it's quite as funny anymore, and it's almost like watching a car wreck on a daily basis. But do you think the show can survive? I mean, I guess the ratings are solid as of now, but the level of vitriol and the really unhinged commentary and we're going to read 20 legal notes today and maybe 30 tomorrow. I mean, how does the show like this continue? I don't, like, you know, you and I are like free speech zealots, but Isn't there an adult at the room at ABC who's just going to pull that plug? What's happening?
Yeah, but we don't make false claims about people constantly either. You can't actually try to destroy someone and with the intent of malice, which I think is what they do there. I mean, it is what they do. It's not what they're trying to do. I don't know how that survives. I believe it's the #1 daytime talk show, isn't it, right now?
I've heard nothing but solid ratings over the years. I never see anything that disagrees with that. So it must be they're keeping the lights on for sure.
But at some point, the legal department at ABC goes, "Hey, this is a liability," and they either flip the hosts because it's Sunny Host and Whoopi Goldberg. Joy Reid knows how to keep her mouth shut once in a while. I mean, she hates Republicans, but she is not as bad as the other two. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, horribly racist, Whoopi and Sunny, and I think that really speaks to the progressivism in our society now that the two of the most racist people on television are black women. Mm-hmm. Never thought that's progress. But like, I think you have to get rid of them in order for the show to continue. I think you actually have to get rid of them because at some point, either your network standards and practices, your attorneys there go, "Hey, you guys are going to cost us a lot of money. It's only going to take one good lawsuit," because here they are, the #1 show, making bogus claims, and that's why they started reading these legal notes. And their reading of the legal notes is like, sarcastic and they laugh at it and whatever. I don't know if that takes away from it. I don't know how. If I'm a savvy lawyer working for somebody who they slandered, I just feel like you just start lobbing lawsuits and see what sticks. I mean,
I guess it's hard. It's harder when you have a public figure. There's more wiggle room there. But yeah, it does seem like it's just inevitable that will happen. Tim, before I let you go, we're near 2025. We're going to have a new president. The media landscape is changing radically. What are you most excited on? Maybe even on a selfish level about what your creative voice will share next, or what's on your mind for 2025?
I have a lot of really fun, big stuff that's coming. What happens at some point here, and you realize this, Toto, is at some point you become like kind of you got me by a couple of years, not a lot. You look very young and fresh faced, but
the wig helps.
Yeah. at some point, I'm starting to make that transition into a woman now, into a kind of the senior person that people come to that has not been a grifter and has not, like taken money from Russia or anything like that, because that was a problem on our side too. They haven't quite fleshed all that out yet, but I hope those boys get what's coming to them. People, I get to help build the next generation, and I get to kind of teach people now, and people have mainly people have realized I was right for years and have kept my nose clean for years, and now I'm in a great position where I can advise people and create the next generation and really show and tell stories the way that I want to without any kind of management over me. And so, I mean, it's great. I mean, it's weird. Like, I hope that everyone can get to this position at some point, but I don't want any competition. So then I hope they don't. But, I like making money and telling the stories the way I want to tell them. And it's a weird, comfortable opportunity that I've been given. And I've worked, 24-year overnight success. And I'm excited to see where it goes because it's growing now. And there are a couple of big projects that if I get them are going to be insane and super fun and not with a network. You know this, Toto, I think we've talked about this before. Like, I've had screen tests and talked with ABC before, NBC, Peacock when they were going to expand Peacock. They have brought me in and talked to me. Every one of these liberal outlets has brought me in for auditions and done stuff over and over and over again. And so I'm on everyone's radar, but now I don't have to worry about working for anyone. So it's going to be really fun what I can do with my stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. The potential that we have as creators it has never been bigger, has never been more exciting, and there's also never been more competition. So that's always the downside of it. But Tim, thanks for joining the show. I love the work you do, and I love the fact that you're kind of still creating and influencing others in a good way, and kind of using. Listen, we all get older. If you can use your wisdom to share what you've learned and the cautionary tales, and maybe make someone avoid the steps that you've run into, all the better. Your main platform these days is on X. It's at Tim Runs His Mouth. It's a great follow, funny, pithy, smart. And I look forward to talking to you again really soon as some of those projects come to fruition.
Well, you should talk to me before that and come on my my live stream one night. We can get you out of your formality here and just for a couple hours.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. Well, that's it for the show this week. Thank you again to Radio America for having me as part of their great podcast lineup. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble, give us a like, a share, a follow, do all the things to help spread the word about the program. We are heading into 2025. The Oscar race is heating up. I've been seeing some of the Oscar bait films. They're getting better, I have to say. I was rather nonplussed by a lot of the award season films that were heading our way, but I think some are truly worthwhile, and some of them I just can't talk about it. The embargo rules are still in place. It's a bit frustrating, but I'll be sharing more on the show and also at HollywoodInToto.com in the days ahead. So check that out. I also have to vote at the Critics' Choice Association Awards, the CCAs. That is, I think, December 10th or 11th. The initial voting is in, so I've got to watch as many movies as possible. So if you don't see me oot and boot, it means I am in my man cave watching a lot of Oscar season screeners. There are worse ways to spend your time. So I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Get that Christmas shopping done ASAP. I don't want to be your stern parent warning you, but if you wait to the last minute, you're going to be miserable. Let's not do that. Just a few clicks of clicks of the mouse, and you've got all the gifts you ever want. Take care of your family, and of course, take care of yourselves. I'll see you all next time.